Hey, hello, Maria. Welcome. I'm so glad to speak to you today about our book, The Ways to God. How are you?
I'm good, Ameera. I'm very excited about the book and our talk. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm also very excited for our book. It feels like the days are just ticking away and we're getting closer and closer to publishing day. And I'm getting more and more nervous because all the work behind the scenes is like, it's a lot. And
Yes.
all the chapters have come in now. So reading through them, I can see how the book is taking form and what each chapter is going to be and where they're going to be placed. And it's really exciting for me because I haven't shared that with you guys yet. You don't know yet what the manuscript in its totality looks like yet. So it's very exciting because I want to put together something that you guys are going to be happy with and proud of. So I'm really excited.
I'm proud and happy and honored to be a part of the co-author book, The Ways to God. I actually brought a little angel with me. We can't see it well. There you go.
It's
It is with the
beautiful.
heart. So I think of how amazing it is to be able to gift to those who will be open and receptive to our contribution.
Yes.
Because for me, growing up with God and Jesus and Holy Spirit has been a good experience, as I share in my chapter with my past. But whenever I talk about it as a person who was raised with Christian Catholicism, there's a lot of controversy and upset between different groups, and also not all of us necessarily being welcome, depending on where you are, which countries you're from, and so I'm honored again, and it's really exciting to offer to the younger generation and maybe the older who are open to it an opportunity to hear our, because all the ladies, all of us, including you, are pretty loving. I don't want to be biased, although some would say I am, because obviously I'm on this end of the spectrum, but we didn't have any kind of upset with each other with all of our differences, which instead it creates, when I'm talking about it, even just talking about the book, sometimes there are those who will come up with their ideas of those areas that bring up fear, upset, divide. So,
Judgment. Yeah, that's
judgment.
what it's about. And, again, all of these things are human things. We feel them, we feel judgment and, whatever it may be. And I feel like it comes from a point of not understanding and not wanting to understand, not wanting to learn more, not wanting to see the similarities instead of the differences. Your background, because I heard over the weekend that the Pope had died, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, that is so sad. And I was at the dentist's office and I was watching it on the news, and I saw all these people and they're so sad. And he on Sunday he made an appearance and everyone was so happy to see him. And I was like, wow, he's so old and he's still doing this work. And like, I
Yeah.
was in awe. And I don't know a lot about that faith and how it works and the role of the Pope and all of that. And I was so moved to see how everyone was just so heartbroken with his passing and all that.
I can give you two sides of that coin. That's why
Yeah,
I'm
please
not
do.
great. I'm not great with words or specifics in a way that some people are, but I did get the opportunity to have two sides. So and also I'm bicultural. I'm American, Italian. Italian is very different than what I've seen within the different institutions and people who have shared with me when they're of an American Christian Catholic. So
Mm,
I will bring that. That makes a difference when you, I think, travel, not I think, if you
yeah.
travel the world and you see differences. So I'm bringing to your perspective that is with that. And there's a lot more of conservative and not openness
Mm,
in America, but in Italy, they're all pretty much, because there's the Vatican. It seems like it's kind of, you get your kids to go through communion and confirmation, but it's not because necessarily they are actively involved.
mm,
But the Pope is looked at, yes, with love. This recent Pope, the part of the news that shares what he's done, it has been to try and open up the community to get to date with modern times, not because of saying no to the past, but
mm,
because there's welcoming diversity.
mm.
However, that part is ignored, or actually, others will see it as just an institution trying to stay in power. People who are against it completely because of the atrocities and the history with the. I'm a political science major, so I look at it from a completely different perspective. and being raised with a good Christian Catholicism, confirmation and all that, I have nothing negative to say personally, because this is why I brought the angel in. I know about angels, and my personal share in the chapters also, I told God by the time I'm 19, I don't see Lucifer, I don't see a demon. And today, as a 45-year-old woman with attachment and trauma education, every single person who's of a low frequency, quote unquote, is not demonic, is a person who needs a therapist. And in fact, when I look at the definition, because there are people who use these definitions, demonic spirit definition seeks to hurt, kill, divide, demoralize any people. Well, then, anybody who's against anybody. If I wanted to be like these people who take words and then they organize it and they stagnate in moments of time, which is where the issue to me lies, because you talking to me about the institution in a negative way. So those who are talking negative, those who talk negative about the Pope being open to diversity. So he was, again, I heard from a grapevine, not me, not direct source, but from news and others that were watching it, that he actually has made it so that those who do need to be addressed by the law will be addressed by the law, with the law, not anymore with the institution. But I can't confirm it. I've heard of that. And so that's a good thing, because that was one of the things I'm like, why should they be exempt from the law? If there's things that are taking place that aren't supposed to be, they need to be addressed by the institution of the law. And so, to my knowledge, he made a lot of changes in a good way, which is why those who are mourning him. In fact, one of the quotes was, if you're going to hate people, you might better to be atheist than to go to church and hate people. I'm translating it. So I believe that he was doing what he could to make a difference from those who have shared to welcome diversity. He wasn't welcomed by all who are not welcoming our same diversity. So us too, as a group, we all know, depending what country we come from, what we may face or what we may not face, right? And how we can talk about our religious faith, spirituality. I like the spirituality umbrella for that reason, and our co-author group, for example, because we don't fight about it. So, but yes, he is very important. And those who loved him, they are sharing what he's done to try and make it better. Those who are stuck in, they're not ever going to change, that's what they're supposed to represent, and we don't like them at all, are completely just against it completely. And changes just make it, they say it's just a play, it's not real, that they're still suppressing. So there's, and then the ones who don't welcome diversity at all, they're saying, oh, he is being or was being influenced by the times, he's changing, and they don't welcome that change either.
Mm.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
because I mean, him as a religious leader, I would say, I haven't seen anything negative from him personally, or but again, I don't know because I haven't, like watched it closely or
yeah,
been into it per se, where I am, very much following everything. But I find it very fascinating. I really do love, I want to say, the culture of it, because it's just so beautiful and everything is just so elaborate. And when I was watching some of the clips that they were showing, I'm not sure where the clips came from or what events were happening at the time of
yes,
those filmings, but they were wearing the beautiful robes and all of the, I don't know what you would call them, but all of the other people that were there within that ceremony were all like walking so perfectly and forming perfect shapes as they were walking. It
yes,
was so mesmerizing to
yes,
watch. And I
yes.
was like, I want to learn more about this culture. I want to learn and understand what this is about and how they think and what they do and what they teach. It's just so fascinating for me. I was just so inspired by it for some reason.
Yeah, I agree. Culture, tradition has a place. That's why it makes me sad that the controversy that is created, not only by the groups of within that culture, but also worldwide, even though we can't, our book will be welcomed by those who welcome what we are talking about right now. Those who will go and pick at every single word that we will have said, and that will go and, and that is something human. So that group of people, those groups of people will not be welcoming. They either, it's, you're being influenced by change, or, so it's something that I'm not going to give too much weight to, but I do believe in my experience, I had a good, yes, upbringing. I have a community of people that have welcomed me. I've been reminded that I am, yes, a mystic, but that I'm welcome. I learned that spiritual gifts are the same as clairs, and sciences are also looking into it through the brain structure. So this field of consciousness, intelligence, God, the ways to God, it is opened to that which is its frequency, intelligence, love, fear, all of those emotions, and then us being able to be vehicles, those different voices. So, for example, when I learned of the word prophecy, speak forth mind and heart of God to encourage, comfort, challenge, or strengthen outside of time, so it can predict it. Well, let's put aside the predicting of the future because I think that's, but to comfort, to challenge, strengthen. That's where I had, again, good catechist with Jesus, Holy Spirit, God. So that's why my first part of the chapter is that I transitioned to my journey of spiritual awakening. I didn't have a near-death experience. I opened up to clairs. And the immediate download was, this is your human makeup, and you won't be welcomed by all. So for the longest time, I didn't talk about my background because of knowing and trying to respect those who may never be on board with differences because their mind might not capacitate it, depending on where they come from, education, family, I don't know, so to try and create, but yeah, I have a good experience with my culture. And
That's
anytime I say
wonderful.
that, people are like, ugh.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, and that's wonderful because just like I'm fascinated and drawn to and so curious about that culture, it's the same for other cultures for me too. It's not to say that I love one more than the other.
yes,
I just want to know, what do they think? What is their way to God versus what is someone else's way to God? And it's not about comparing the two, but it's understanding both so that I can incorporate both or incorporate what I like from both into my life. I don't see a reason to say, this is better than that, or this one is, more preferred or whatever. I don't see a reason for us to do that. We are so diverse as humans. Why not have that diversity be accepted in everything we do? Well, obviously, we know what happens when people are diverse, right? We start fighting
yes,
because we look different. We start fighting because we are women versus men and black versus white and this and that. And it's just so old. I'm like so tired of it. It's so
yes,
old.
yes.
It's like it should have died a long time ago. Like all of those things mean nothing. People make boundaries where they shouldn't be, and they hold themselves back because now you, with believing all of these limitations and having all of these constructs built into your mind, you hold yourself back from things like, oh, I cannot experience this type of life or this type of experience because I'm not white or I'm not Christian or I'm not this or I'm not that. When there aren't any limitations, to be honest, you created those for yourself by listening to people who told you there's an invisible fence here, and now you
Yeah.
believe it. And
That's what,
yeah,
go ahead.
no, I think I'm done.
That's why I was saying our book at least gives opportunity for those people who are open to what you were just saying. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to interrupt you, but yes, to welcome this type of conversation. We welcome each other. Not everybody welcomes what we've been doing. I was talking about the book and about Christian Catholicism and baptism, and in the conversation, there are those who will have said, "You're contradicting yourself. It's an imposition." So this is the part of where if we meet those who are not open as we are to be flexible, because there isn't a one, two, three. It's wow. Each culture has a reason. When I think of the prophets, I think I remember analyzing it from they all had a voice that represented their culture. They brought God to their culture in a way that made sense of it. When you actually look at it historically, the reason you did meat or fish or whatever, it was because of the time. So taking when people keep those books and the institutions in a way with a charge, oh, I'm going to hold you accountable for what was in the year 1300, whatever, because I'm horrible with that. But to me, you're taking out of context what they actually were, each group of representatives. And when I think of Islam, because I learned world religions and he was the last of the monotheistic, I remember when the teacher was explaining, he tried to bring all of the Judaism and Christianity together. And people will want to correct me on what my teacher taught me too. Just another example. And this is in my bachelor's years. So anytime somebody wants to pick at something, they will continue to do it. Those are the individuals I'm going to allow myself to stop at a certain point and listen, because they are not welcoming of diversity. They're picking apart at words. It's a type of thought that is, in fact, not curious, open, accepting, or loving. These are acronyms from lovely Dr. Daniel Siegel's being in the present in the prefrontal cortex. So I'm not going to talk to a person who's already defensive, because you're not in the conversation because you want exchange. And Terrio will talk about it as an adaptive child part person. So I don't have a functional adult. I don't have an integrated brain. I don't have an individual who's open to exchanging. I have a person who's very secure of what they want. You have an opinion, great, do that. But in the world religions class, I'm learning about Islam, I'm learning about Muhammad, I'm learning about the pillars. And as he's explaining to us, he tried to bring Judaism and Christianity together. They didn't want it. And I thought, wow, that's so sad. And I thought of it in the way I'm sharing it right now. He was one of those who was going to bring it all together. Right now, what we have is the spirituality of the umbrella of spirituality. We are doing something different because it's a different time, but we are doing the same thing. That doesn't mean that those groups who are very much in their identity as a fixed one will be welcoming, because that's where cognitive dissonance comes into the mix. They will actively have so it's multifaceted, which is, if they don't have more religious leaders of their own culture that are open to diversity, who are they being exposed to? Our book makes a difference for those children and those people who will be open to that which we are. And then they will hear and they will say, wow, okay, so we can all do what they're doing, meaning it's all faith, it's all God, it's all love, it's all intelligence. And for that group, it'll be spirituality, I believe. I think that's how we are, and the other ones who want to cling on and say, no, we want to stay fixed in time, they're going to continue perhaps doing that and calling us names. And
Yeah.
that's part
Yeah.
of.
And as you were explaining, the word righteousness came to my mind. Like they have this righteousness about their belief system, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong if you want to believe in righteousness and that what you believe is right, then I am not going to convince you or convert you to anything. But I feel like it's so interesting because I was watching a YouTube, actually, I wasn't watching the YouTube video. A short came up as I was scrolling, and there was this religious teacher, and he was saying, it was an Islamic religious teacher, and he was giving this talk, kind of like a lecture or something. I'm not sure if it was what setting it was in, but he was explaining his concern for the amount of young people that are leaving the religion Islam. And I thought about it because a lot of people question me, like, I've left the religion of Islam or this or that. And I constantly say that I haven't left the religion. There are certain things that I don't agree with, but that doesn't mean that I am completely abandoning everything that it stands on, or the foundations, or certain things that are really good principles, or there are certain things that that were built into me culturally that comes from the religion as well, that I really love and resonate with and continue to do, and teach my
Yep.
kids to do and things. And
Yes.
it's the same with other religions. There's something I find in another that I do the same with. I resonate with it. It makes me feel good. I practice it in my life. So that righteousness about you can either do, it's either this or that. Like you were explaining, it comes from a lot of imbalances, and people need to realize that it's not what you think it is. You are focusing on the wrong issue here. You're focusing on us versus them, me versus you, right versus wrong, whatever. But if you're thinking like a cave person now, evolve
Okay.
yourself just a little bit more so that you can see actually what you're looking at is all the same thing from a different perspective. So now you can put the pieces together and say, okay, I see the bigger picture. It all makes sense together. They all fit in perfectly together. I don't have to fight with myself or someone else to make my point. It's just they are looking from a different perspective and I'm looking from a different perspective, but we are looking at the same thing. So that was my main takeaway.
And you mentioned caveman, by the way. So, as a person who's attachment trauma informed, and I have a number of in-depth courses, I have learned enough about the embodied brain, which is a nervous system. Caveman is what these structurally dissociated and or cognitive dissonance person is in, because they're actively in a fight response is the modulated embodiment. And so they're not open. Again, adaptive child part is what Terry would call it. He helps relate, a therapist he is, and he works with couples. But the point is the way that the people in righteousness, because they'll pick at the word, they'll want the attribute. And that's why it's not only a word. The word is one thing, putting it into the caveman, you are dumbed down. I even have a book on anger management. The minute a person has certainty with anger, which is what's happening with their sympathetic, they're actively in our ancestors' caveman mode. And it's the trauma brain. They have a charge. In fact, the fourth step to healing trauma charges, because it's not that something major, but even just this stance is to have bystanders take your side and to go and not have an apology by the person who did you harm or the group. No, it's having people take your side and then going to attack, if you will, others verbally, or get one group against another group. So there's a number of studies that I've also heard of from these same experts. And again, there's small samples, perhaps. I can't, anybody who's wanting to say, oh, it's not true, will ask me a bunch of questions. And I'm like, look, I'm not the expert learning. I know who the experts are, but our 14-month-old, so our human history has been about groups. So the 14-month-old of us has preferences, the amygdala, the brain has everything to do with it, is my point. So when you said caveman, intuitively, that is exactly what's happening. If we have leaders, which Sadhguru, I want to quote him, because as he says, being a leader does not mean dominating the situation. It means empowering people to do what they would not have imagined possible. So I'm a political science major. When I thought of people being leaders, I thought of all of them being, like the title of my chapter, Discerning Equanimous Love, which is where God is that to me. Intelligence is that. The active, mentally, emotionally, physically mature human being knows how to be engaged in their restorative embodiment versus being in modulation. So people who will appeal to words without regarding how their body is will be dumbed down, because when you're in this anger and certainty, so the other studies, again, you're using superficial information, which is what they do. They come at you with this little sword. I was a teenager when they were doing this, and I'm not good with remembering data the way they present it, but I also am not trying to prove a point because I'm not with a panel of experts. And so socially speaking, to me, engaging in conversation is meant to expand each other. But those who are fixed on an identity, and that's why I also mentioned cognitive dissonance, the humanities and social sciences groups will talk about this. There are plenty of people who will talk about it, but that doesn't matter if we have the religious groups who are deciding, they based on their upbringing, that what we are doing is against what the culture and the religion was, because they're using a moment in time of what Shakespeare doesn't, we don't have Shakespeare anymore. This is for me, you're reading an ancient textbook without realizing and remembering how systems work and how religion and faith and spirituality can continue to coexist. But we need more of those people in those positions to be where we are at. If that is not the case, yes, they will keep leaving, because this is, you are not, it's not resonating with the times. It's
Yeah,
just not resonating with the times. So
I
nobody,
agree
like,
with you.
I didn't leave Christian Catholicism. I will always talk about it. People will tell me you're not it, you're not doing it, and I will allow myself to leave it alone because that's their opinion. In my opinion, I want to see actual leaders make a difference to where our religions, for those of us who had a good upbringing, could continue maybe to coexist. That would be
Yeah.
my wish. I
Oh,
don't know if
yeah.
it will happen, because we have people who don't like any of what we are. They will use their group and say what they're doing is, and they'll use that demonic spirit word. They will use words against us. I saw a person use it in a very specific way. That's why it's once they have a group that they've decided, and that is their divisiveness. But we can't make people see anything either. So if that's their group, they feel that they belong and they are righteously going to stand down, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love what you said about leadership and what a leader is. Because I think religious leaders of way back, way back, way back did us an incredible disservice by, in a way, weaponizing religion and religious systems, because we wouldn't be in this position right now if there wasn't that agenda, political agenda wrapped up in the whole religious thing. I understand how, religion came about and what that, why that was important for communities and societies and families. I get that. But I also understand that there were other agendas at play that people didn't really see into or were interested in learning about, or even maybe they were like blind to it. It was seen as conspiracy theories perhaps or something,
Yeah.
and they didn't really understand what was happening behind the scenes, where the religion was used as a face of something, but there was something else going on behind the scenes. And now that it's kind of like things are unraveling a little bit, we are evolving more as humans, and we can see certain things not working out for us. That's why people are quote unquote leaving religion and
Yeah.
religious systems. But it's not that they want to leave God, it's not that they want to leave the inner knowing of who we are, and there's a divine creator, and we are part of this whole enormous, elaborate, complex, and just infinite system. It's not that they are denying that. It's they're saying the way this religion was built and the way the principles it stands on now, I no longer resonate with that. So I'm going to move away from those things, and not so much, don't worry about me. I still have my relationship with God, but don't involve me in the other ritualistic stuff that are not really built into what I think is necessary for me to continue or nurture that relationship with God or spirit or whatever. So it's
The fear
difficult to
frequency,
explain.
the fear frequency.
Yeah.
They bring a fear frequency. I go back to encourage, comfort, challenge, or strengthen. When the ancient people, is how I'm going to call them, they are a fear frequency. And so with the another enlightened one, I don't remember his name, but he's on YouTube, and I saw a short, I believe, and he's getting asked a specific question about AI and intelligence and consciousness. And he's like, well, one, he said, I think it'll be misconstrued or misunderstood, because I'm sure he thinks not all can follow his logic, which is, but he says intelligence is not, so AI won't win. There's no need to worry about who's going to win, AI or human. Intelligence is going to keep speeding up the expansion of consciousness. And as we are here with the word God, divine, meaning the essence of that intelligence, either we come at it again as science with consciousness, and they're looking into it, or with our enlightened number of, so Sadhguru with his definition of leadership, he also is the one who told me how Jesus shared the kingdom of God is within us. And I didn't know that, but I know of when you're in this restorative embodiment, you're self-aware, accountable, you're regulating, you're in your mammalian heritage, not your, caveman. So we're using our faculties to be here present emotionally and mentally. That's where the heaven, and bringing forth the true you, authentic you, but fear frequency doesn't match. And so this is where I find that God, yes, is consistently with us. That love is not about you being all, let's give green or red passes to people. It's actually no one is necessarily that angel or that demon in the mystical way of let's create an identity. But as he was saying, there's no worry for him. And any one of us who has a relationship with God, I will say we have faith, trust, that comfort, the challenge, the strength. It's not a punishing question, God, when they bring in, and that's why there's the other group for the culture with the Christian Catholicism, the ones who are very much upset still with the charge. It's because they still perceive and bring forth that which was suppression, but we still have leaders who are not getting rid of that very message. And so as long as, yes, they're holding on to specific words, to specific ways, we can enjoy, us who are flexible, we enjoy that which that heritage will bring. We enjoy that we know it led us to God in a time, and it continues to lead children to God. But as we grow older and as we're in a different time, some of us will, move away from, we're not strict. We're not like, I can't, like, okay. So that's.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. And like the fear frequency stuff, because it's kind of built in, and I don't know if this is true for all religions, because I don't know all religions in that way, but I feel like that fear frequency, like you say, there are certain words and certain things and certain actions that will trigger that fear frequency. And then you almost feel like, okay, I'm going to step back, or maybe I'm not good enough, or this or that. It will bring up your own limiting beliefs, or your own, like, I don't know, just some kind of
Self-doubt.
conditioning. Yes,
I
self-doubt.
call it the human secondary consciousness because, again, we're aware that we live, we're aware that we die. Humanly
Yeah.
speaking, therapists call it a dilemma. So finding meaning, finding purpose.
Mm,
God is invisible, so is intelligence. That's why the sciences, they'll talk about it as a problem. And that's why those of us of faith, if we are together and we talk and we support each other, and we resonate, which is what one group is
yeah.
doing. The other ones are doing it divisively. So the fear comes up because, of course, that's human.
Yeah.
We still don't see it, right? You're brought with the unknown, which is where God continues to support any one of us when we have the direct relationship for those of us who do,
Yeah.
but with flexibility for those of us who don't become afraid, because there are those who will have followed what we're doing, which is opening up to everything, but then they will have a very bad dream. And actually, I've heard about this one from neuroscientist Patrick McNamara, where he talks about decentralizing of the self and mysticism. And so even this is beautiful because empirical mysticism and science and spirituality are coming together to explain things that can help even those who are atheists to still be in a world that, for me, they're one and the same because it's love, it's intelligence, it's the higher frequency. It doesn't, we're not going lower. The fear frequency exists because fear as a feeling, an emotion that protects us from physical danger. Like it actually is neutral. Your body won't ever be in the absence of it. But the ones that are bringing it forth in that ancient way, whether it's religion or politics, doesn't matter. The group that will resonate with that, it's not about them resonating with fear as much as they get afraid and they're following specific leaders because of their, depending on where they come from and who they get to hear. But yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought on that one. But the higher frequency and the secondary human consciousness, still, you're still a person. So it's with the group that you can support each other. And if you're open to differences, obviously you're going to be with a group that is more welcoming of differences. If instead you flip a switch because you think I'm a sinner, I did something wrong, and you remember how they taught you tarot's bad, Reiki's bad, it's the demon, it's the devil, if that's what you've been hearing, and you are gonna be afraid now because you had a nightmare. That's what Patrick McNamara, the neuroscientist, was explaining. And so, humanly speaking, I can understand as a person of faith with God, because I was already a kid growing up with God, which is where when I close my chapter, I say, I know what countries I come from. I'm not physically afraid because I know what rights I have. I do know that I'm not welcomed by all. I try to be respectful, and I'm just sharing as a self agent that for me, it wasn't hard to maintain to this day when I get told, no, you shouldn't say you're a Christian Catholic. That's my upbringing. That is what my foundation is. I'm proud. I'm happy. I'm sad that I'm not welcomed by all. I'm sad that they're not creating a more welcome. I understand it, though, from both a political, societal, and cognitive dissonance brain perspective, as well as environmental, because I have a home. I'm not poor. I'm not in the street. I'm not somewhere where I don't have access to. If, on the other hand, I were, I might get beat up by a parent of mine or something because of saying some mystic stuff. I have a friend who stopped reading tarot because the girlfriend, who then became the wife, said, this is bad energy. You're getting the demons inside the house. Stop. Because every time that he would read tarot, something would happen or something like that. But this is where superstition comes to my mind too, and here's where manifesting. So for those of us who are instead on a flow, we can actually understand how it can work together, because I think for us, we're open to it all. The ones who aren't, they actually, I've heard one, like, we need to prove spirituality. I'm like, scientists are actually now going to try to disprove reality with AI, because that's how the human brain of where's our certainty? Where's our actual active certainty? That's the human secondary consciousness. You're not going to get certainty because there's always going to be a question mark, which back to God and free will. Because see, while science, some say we have no free will due to trauma, self-doubt, all these things. I have a different belief. The lovely authors and I, we talked a little bit about that one in one of our meetings. I don't know if you were a little bit there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I left early, so I didn't get the tail end of the conversation where you and Lisa Marie were actually having a full-on discussion about it. So I didn't get to hear that. But I never shared my beliefs actually about free will. And this is what I think. I think, of course, there are choices, and every single moment we have choices. And that is the free will that we have, because I can choose to drink my strawberry milk, or I can choose to not do that. And each choice is a valid choice, and I could choose either choice, and both would be perfectly fine. But both has its own consequences, and both will take me on a different timeline, if you will, on a different route, if you will. So the destination is inevitable, but how I get there is my own free will. I can walk down the road, I can skip down the road, I can drive, I can jump, I can run. That's my free will. But down the road I will go, because that's what I chose when I decided to be human. So that is my understanding of free will. I feel like it's not like a trap. A lot of people like to explain it almost as if you are trapped and you have no free will, and we're in the simulation in some alien child's basement, and he's looking down and moving pieces and making us squirm. I don't feel that at all. I
Yeah.
don't.
Yes, I don't feel that either. I can take always two sides, meaning with well, one, free will. To me, we each individually have it. I have a book that I need to still read. It's called Determined, and the author is Robert Sapolsky. It's in other sciences. So he's saying we don't have free will because based on the brain and those first 3 years of our life, based on our subconscious and conscious, and things that we will be automatically doing, which I understand from a human psychological, and just if I look at me and my childhood, and I can see how my story and my mannerisms, my personality patterns and temperament come into the picture. But still, I'm going to say I do believe in free will. Can I give it a scientific explanation because I want it? Sure. But I'm going to say that is my cherishable belief. It is what I feel inside. I can accept that it's falsifiable because I'm grounded in reality. This is part of a Sam Harris quote. I'm giving a paraphrase, but he makes a very valid point that those of us who know, okay, I believe in something doesn't mean it's 100% true. And in this case, when it comes to free will, anybody who wants to give us a blanket statement of anything, really, I mean, again, that's where it comes down to, are we having an enjoyable time talking about it or not? So science is in the same boat as spirituality because of unavailable, invisible stuff. In the meantime, when it comes to God, I love that I have my upbringing with faith, with spirit, with source. And it is of love and it is not of fear. And when I do get afraid, I actually am comforted because of angels, and I didn't see a demon. And as a 45-year-old woman, there's no demon in the sky and there's no demon anywhere. There's lower frequencies. When I've had my own dreams, I haven't been afraid. That's the other part about the body and the way that we can perceive, those of us who have clairs and there again spiritual gifts, and then the neuroscience is looking into it. But yeah, that I definitely say we have free will when we are consciously aware as human beings, and we own our brain and we own our mind and we own our body and we own our frequency. So when you're able to navigate your nervous system and your own self and not project, which again we're very good at, those of us who are open, at being welcoming and at not getting rigid. But if I have to say there is none, I can understand that too. However, I don't actually believe that. No, I believe we have free will individually, and that, like you said, we get to choose. Those who can choose to bring their self to heal, they will join us. Those who won't, then I will say those people, they usually tell you their self-fulfilling prophecies. They
Yeah.
have a story and they'll just tell you where they're going to end up. And so that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I love what you said about owning your frequency, because that is taking responsibility and not blaming it on someone else or some other factors, like, oh, woe is me, I grew up like this, or this is my belief system because someone imprinted it into me when I was 2 years old or whatever. Like, take responsibility for who you are and the decisions you make and who you choose to be in this world, whether you have a religion or no religion or a spiritual upbringing or not. It doesn't matter. To be a good human and to leave the world in a better state than you found it, you don't need any of that. You just need to know who you are and walk in a way that nurtures others, nurtures your world around you, nurture yourself, and treat others with respect, dignity, love, compassion. These things we don't need religion for. We don't need someone, a religious teacher, to say, be kind to someone, or this. Like, we don't need that. But yet I
Yeah.
feel like people, they just like bypass that whole thing of what it means to actually be human, besides all the religious stuff, besides all the spiritual stuff. Like you are human, you know. And what you were saying earlier about like this invisible forces, I had a belief once upon a time that we were just physical beings. There was nothing beyond it. We were just physical and that's it. But that felt so, I don't know what the word is, like it just didn't satisfy me that I am just physical. Because then
Yeah.
why do I have these complex thoughts and emotions and feelings? And I cannot see my feelings or my thoughts, or like, so why is that so impactful on me if that too is invisible and if everything is just physical and only the physical matters, you know? So there's so many ways you can look at it and there's so many ways you can slice the cake, but it remains what it is. And there'll always be a question mark, like you say. There'll always be people on this side and on that side and playing this tug of war. And that's fine. You know, we'll just have to wait it out as humans and see where the evolution takes us. And then we'll just see, okay, who is living more with love and compassion, and let's gravitate towards that and let's choose that
Yeah.
versus like, okay, I'm going to fight against, you know, the other side of it. Like it just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense to do that.
I have another book I haven't read yet. It's
Yeah.
Existential Physics by Sabine.
Oh,
I forget how to pronounce her last name, but I got it because she actually wrote it to explain all of that, which would be our experiences with physics. Because she got asked a question. No, she was in a taxi. She shares why she wrote it, and a man got a ride with her, and he turns to her and he says, because I forget how they began their conversation, but anyways, at a certain point, he's like, my grandma says that we're still here because of physics. So she got presented, you know, is it true, this question? And she's like, I'm going to answer all the existential questions of humans with physics. I look forward to reading it at one point, but I wanted to also add another aspect because we are, again, as channelers, downloaders, we expand. We're beyond just the one note of one religion, one faith, and this is where God has expanded to also, at least for me, have divine, Akash, intelligence, consciousness. It's the frequency. It's the you can't beat God. That's the one thing that and he or they or energy, how you want to say it, will make its way. The fear frequency, brothers and sisters, I honor them because they are to be honored. This is where we have consciousness split itself into two. I can say love and fear if I wanted to, which is what usually, right? Those opposite, the polar opposite spectrums. I don't have to keep it fixed in stone, but from that spiritual perspective, there's this other enlightened person. Again, I don't remember his name, and I'm watching it on YouTube, and he's saying as an akash that we choose, like there's the beginning of the book with love and you end with fear. And he's just pretending that he's got it, the akash book. And he's like, every soul, before you come, you choose exactly what you're going to experience and who with and all of that. Okay, and so this is where we have all those souls that we can encounter. I know of soul age groups, so I also personally know, okay, that's what made me understand why some aren't moving into more expansion in their frequency. But yes, like I said, take ownership of your frequency. And like you said, be a good human. I don't like to use good or bad, but yes, you be a good human when you're open to being kind to another. But to be kind to another, you need to be kind to yourself. You need to know how to navigate yourself. You need to know how to not be reactive. And this is the part of why that book, Robert Spolsky Determined, he's saying no free will. It's because of that foundation. But you do have the capacity to get ownership of yourself. So to
mm.
me, you still have free will. And this book that I got shown to me makes it why those who call people energy vampires, dark auras, the spiritual bypassers, you're in ego land. You have obviously not understood that you are here to embody pure soul, which is pure love. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but don't you go around telling me that you and that it's Luciferian era. This is what that their name, you know. So for the religious, they have a whole historical background, politically organized. I get that, which is where I hope that they can find, I don't know, because again, that maybe their role is to give comfort to people in a way that they, I don't know. It's not my, it's a big picture thing. But when it comes to our mystic community, that's a whole different story. When I hear anybody wanting to divide us up, I'm like, you obviously haven't understood how it works.
Yeah.
And so if you don't want to embody love, don't embody it, but don't you be making it sound like you are the reason. I mean, I've seen it's because of me and my subliminal messages that you are going to have access to the higher frequency. I'm like, excuse me, what? You know, like I'm just thinking, sure, God is not only through you. I'm so sorry, poor child. No, I don't say that, but what, poor child. That's like, okay, wow, you got some ego going on. The ways to God. So the fear frequency, before I want to share this, the way our brain works. The amygdala is what is alerted to those who have a safety behavior pose. And the way a neuroscientist was explaining it was the frontal lobes are flopped down. We all have neuroplasticity, and imagination is what we're using. And that's when we see things, we think things, we speak things. But the minute that your body is in that caveman position, one, your ears are flopped down, your prefrontal cortex, and you're using your amygdala. And that's where your amygdala can get bigger. So can your insula, which is instead what connects the head and the body for those of us who are at ease with being ourselves and who are using our prefrontal cortex, our mammalian heritage. So when I think of the 4D collective is what I call them, because they're in that lower frequency, they actually fit the bill with spiritual bypassers. They talk about each other as energy vampires. They get into hissy fits with each other. They're still channeling. They are, in fact, still connected to God. That's the exact part of where I can't say I don't want fear frequency to be here, but we have fear in our bodies. We are human. The growing up and having self-empowerment versus self-doubt is important. When you have self-doubt, who's the group that you're around? If you're around a group and that's a group like us who's welcoming, awesome, but you might not be a person who's welcoming of differences. You might freak out and then go to the other end of the spectrum and start spreading rumors about yoga bringing demons out of your body because you had a bad experience and because they told you that yoga was bad. And those people, the leaders, don't actually think of, oh, look, I'm insulting an entire heritage. Politically speaking, and as a professional, that's why to me, when I hear the word leader, and as I was going through my bachelor's and master's, that's where I dropped it and decided for online marketing, online entrepreneurship, the mentorship, content creator, and everything I do with Inspiring Human Potential podcast stuff and self-help. But it was because I'm seeing all these people, they're using the word leaders, but I'm like, where? Like, how? You know, like you're not doing what leaders, I thought leaders would be smart. And so smart to me means you are actively able to be discerning, equanimous, loving. Again, that's where I'll bring back to God, because any intelligence must use a calm centered stance. Otherwise you are reactive. So physically speaking, anyways, the spiritual bypassers, they get me because I feel like they're dressing up, but they are still downloading, they are still channeling their imagination, and what they go through I can understand. I have had downloads, I have read Akashic records for people who have been, this is the lifetime where they are expanding, so they actually are, it's their leveling up. But in the future, they're still the low frequency. It's a specific incident that actually one of my astral travel dreams and then Akashic record reading, because they were just wanting to have a fun time, meaning they were curious. They didn't believe in it. But as a channeler and as a person who is here to support, you don't say no. That's how I at least feel. If I have time and I can be of that support, it was something I learned. I learned to say, okay, remember that some people actually think it's buffoonery and this may not be something used well, even though luckily that's not the case. But through this experience, I can tell you that this person particularly, they are leveling up, but in the future, they're still in the same role. So that expansion of consciousness, human evolution, and God and source, and us having free will. Because see, again, sciences don't believe. So the physical, existential physics, people who have read it, they're like, oh my God, now there's nothing. And then we go back to human secondary consciousness needing to have a meaning, which is why science will tell us that we just believe because we want to have meaning. And so we're going to find a way. So for me, a faith in this lifetime, I know that you can't break my faith. God is always going to be with me. I grew up with it. I can give you an explanation. I don't need it to be something you believe in, but I have a relationship with God. I have a relationship with Holy Spirit, Jesus, with angels, with all of it. I do believe in it. I can't prove it. Science can't disprove it either, but I will take their quantitative data and know that they are proving that every person can have what I call the kingdom of God. Thank you, Jesus, within us. With that good, like you said, responsible, take ownership of your frequency, become the person you want to be. And therefore, that's how God will try to keep getting us, to me, to work together with love. and then to have some type of compassion with fear, but really our laws. We want our laws, our governments are continuing to do what people do together,
Mm.
by the people, for the people. Each country also has karma and a soul age group, FYI. Just
Yeah.
random side note that they're processing. So they get to work through their own charges. If the people don't expand and they remain limited consciousness and they continue with their narrative about their countries, then they've decided their fate.
Yeah.
But they did
Yeah.
have a destiny they could have done. They could have chosen free will. This, and this is why, for those of us of faith and spirit, again, I use science, meaning I can understand it, I can explain it, I can give it to you. Ask me what I believe. God knows what's going to happen. I don't need to do anything about that.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing, like you're, like I'm at ease. I'm trying to be the best version, spread love, be kind, have people come together. I don't want to create hurt emotionally, physically, none of that. No, it's not perfect. There is no perfection. Please stop. There's no, asteroid, don't hit us, safety wear. But at the same time, don't bring in demon, and don't bring in that my brothers and sisters are demonic or evil in this way of the ancient textbooks, because they're not. There's an answer to their healing. Don't bring in that countries they can get together, that they're still people. Yes, because people are people and there's 8 billion of us. So I have answers. I don't need a story that gives me a superhero and a supervillain group, which is where I see people when they're divided. And usually the divisive ones are bringing that into the mix. So they will have their superhero and supervillain group, which is why they will not be welcoming of us. Doesn't make me stand down. Again, I'm lucky I come from countries where I can speak my thoughts in the absence of disrespecting anybody, and in with academia and sharing societally, humanity, social sciences, societal culture. It's changing, it's up, and whoever wants to continue, welcome. Who wants to stay with the dinosaurs, let them. I mean, that's so.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I could not have said it any better. And I'm so excited to now go and read your chapter fully, because I just peeked through it and skimmed through it and read a piece here and there. But I am so excited because, again, this entire book, the way it's put together and all the different perspectives, it's so beautiful. It's such a, I don't want to use the word masterpiece because I feel like that is so cliche, but really it is just so beautiful the way all the words come together, and you can feel the love and you can feel that frequency of wanting just expansion and wanting
Yes,
just love,
yes,
you know? So I'm really excited for this book. It's coming out on June 28th in hardcover and paperback, and it's already on pre-order for the ebook. So people can get that. The link will be in the description. And then the audiobook will follow a few months later. So super exciting.
yes,
And
that
yeah,
is.
I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to speak with you today. It was so fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the honor and the opportunity, the book, everything bringing us together, and the mosaic. I love the word mosaic. To me is what, because I get it, masterpiece. One might think, oh, I saw some comments of people thinking that we are vain when we're using words, but I feel like you, it's a book of expansion
Yeah.
with love and the desire to simply bring different people together and say God is with us. For those of us of spirit source, again, divinity, he, she, they,
Yeah.
it's love, love.
And there's no
So
judgment. You can
yes,
believe what you want to believe and still read what someone else believes without feeling triggered or hurt or emotionally,
yes,
I don't know, like you're being set on fire. It's
yep,
okay. It's
yes,
okay. Just accept everyone and love everyone and know that you too are accepted and loved. And I think
yes.
that is the main thing. Once you get to the place where you believe that you are truly accepted and loved, then you will truly accept and love others. So, thank you so much, Maria. I
Thank you.
appreciate you so much. Thank
Thank you.
you.